Now that the Fujifilm X-T5 has finally been released, many of you are no doubt looking to upgrade your camera. And as the used market becomes flooded with X-T4s, there are going to be some excellent deals to be had on Fuji's previous flagship model. So in today's video, we're talking about which camera might be best for you. What's up, everyone? Thanks as always for joining me, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to gently press that like button, as there is no need to smash it. And also click on the link in the description below to download my free PDF, 5 portrait tips for the studio photographer. And while you're there, check out some of my awesome sponsors, including Lens Rentals, Dehancer, and Cuts Clothing. So which camera should you buy in 2023? The Fujifilm X-T4 or the brand spanking new X-T5? Well, let's discuss the 4 first, because as of today, you can purchase one on the used market for around $1,300 US, which is quite a value for your dollar. So let's talk about why. The X-T4 was Fuji's first and sort of last attempt to create a hybrid traditional flagship model that combined everything people loved about the X-T3 and the X-H1 into a well-rounded camera for everyone. Now, clearly that strategy did not work, because with the new flagship models, they've gone in the other direction, ditched the physical dials, and gone for a more modern look and feel in an attempt to create a competitive hybrid system that rivals Sony and Canon. But in many ways, the X-T4 still gives users the best of both worlds. In the 4, you have a body that's larger and more substantial than the 5, and that also retains the analog dials that many Fuji users love. You have a flip screen, which, if you're a hybrid shooter or you create vlogs and YouTube content, is really necessary and preferable over the tilt screen in the 5. The 4 is solid not only in the body itself, but also the top dials, which are very robust and require a firm click to move. Another advantage of the 4 is that you can purchase a battery grip for the camera, which makes holding it with larger lenses much more comfortable, and it's practical for those who prefer a larger body or who shoot things like sports and nature with larger lenses and want to retain a good balance to the camera. The X-T4 features a 26 megapixel sensor, which seems to pale in comparison on paper when you compare it to the 40 megapixel sensor in the X-T5. But for most shooters, the actual quality difference between the two sensors will be impossible to distinguish. Unless you are cropping extensively or printing very big enlargements, the 40 megapixel sensor offers few advantages over the 20 megapixel sensor and actually has some disadvantages. File sizes are huge, so if you're shooting in RAW, you will need a ton of storage space to store your files, as well as a fast computer for editing. But more on the sensor later. I've already touched upon what I think is the most attractive reason to buy an X-T4 in 2023, and that is the price. You can get a whole lot for your dollar with the X-T4. Now, many Fuji fans completely passed over the X-T4 because of some of the features I just mentioned, including the larger body and the flip screen, which they saw as a huge departure from what made the X-T series great in the first place, a small photocentric camera with a tilt screen that didn't want anything to do with being a hybrid shooter. And that brings me to the X-T5. The X-T5 offers some distinct and marked improvements over the 4 while bringing back almost everything Fuji users loved about the X-T3. It's smaller and lighter than the 4, and it has the 3-way articulating screen, which many people, including myself, do prefer. The most notable improvement, however, for me is in the autofocus system, which is much more accurate than the 4 when taking both stills and video. The face and eye tracking works great, and it makes using the camera much easier than using the 4 in less than ideal lighting conditions, or even for a talking head video like this one. Besides the improved autofocus, the new 40 megapixel sensor is the biggest technological advancement in the X-T5. As I already mentioned, many users will not even notice, though, an appreciable difference in the quality between the two cameras, so choosing the 5 based solely on the resolution jump really should depend on what you're planning to do with the final images. For instance, if you shoot sports or nature, the ability to crop in without losing detail is one of the key advantages of the higher res sensor. As a portrait photographer, The reason I wanted the higher resolution is because my work is often used for print purposes and has appeared on billboards and magazines and book jackets, album covers, and things of that nature. So having the higher resolution sensor in these instances does make an appreciable difference for my work. If you're just displaying photos online, never printing them, and not doing much cropping though, there's very little reason to upgrade based on the sensor alone. And the high resolution is still a compromise itself. When shooting bursts, for instance, the files can take some time to save and slow down your workflow. Also, if you shoot regularly at very high ISOs, the noise can become an issue as well. For my kind of shooting, these are not major concerns since the majority of my work is in a studio or on location, and I use ISOs between 125 and 800 primarily. Also, since I shoot tethered, the write speed is less of an issue as the images import into Capture One very fast. But these are certainly things you should consider before upgrading just based on the sensor size alone. The smaller size and weight of the X-T5 is another advantage for some users. Now keep in mind that the 4 and 5 look almost the same size, so it's not like the 5 is going to fit into your pocket or anything, but it does feel a bit smaller in the hand. The weight difference, however, is quite noticeable, and this will be appreciated by anyone who takes the camera out for a long day of shooting and wants to travel as light as possible. At first, I didn't like the size of the 5 because I felt it was not as comfortable to grip with a larger lens, but I quickly got used to it. I also picked up a metal hand grip, which I use sometimes, but it's nice to have the option to remove it when I want to travel lighter. There are many other small advancements in the 5 which are a welcome improvement over the 4. The command dials, for instance, which were very easy to press in by accident on the older camera, are much firmer now and less prone to an accidental press while you are scrolling. The menu system finally stays on the page you last chose when you click out of the menu, making it simple to tweak settings without having to scroll back to where you were like you had to do in the X-T4. The battery life is a monumental improvement over the 4, which in my experience lasted for only around 2 hours of still shooting before it was depleted, which was sad. I've gone an entire day with one battery on the 5, barely putting a dent in it, and this is really an improvement and the way it should be. Another place where the X-T5 shows big gains over the 4 is in the video department. Now, I'm assuming that most people looking at the X-T series will be still shooters primarily, but the improved IBIS plus the ability to record 6K video as well as F-Log 1 and 2 actually make the 5 an excellent choice for video shooters and a hybrid shooter sort of in its own right. Although Fujifilm does market the camera as photography first, which I believe it is, it certainly doesn't shortchange users in the video department. So now that we've discussed some of the pros and cons of both cameras, which one is right for you? Well, in large part, I think it depends on your budget. Look at it this way. You can pick up a used X-T4 and an excellent lens like the older 56mm for around $2,000 or even less if you shop deals. This is an amazing combination, and for many years photographers have used a setup like this to create stunning images across a variety of photographic fields. I think it's hard to beat when it comes to the value per dollar and the robust features that you're getting. If, however, autofocus is a primary concern for you and you want the best possible AF speed and accuracy, the 5 is the way to go. One thing I will add here, though, is that with Fujifilm, the AF speed depends too much, in my opinion, on the lens you're using. And some lenses are going to fare better than others, so just keep that in mind as well. Another deal breaker for some of you will be the tilt screen. Lots of die-hard Fuji users passed up on the 4 because they so genuinely loathe the flip screen. So if you're using an X-T3 and you've been patiently waiting to upgrade, the 5 is definitely the way to go, and it can be seen really as the replacement for the 3 more so than the 4 can. Finally, the new sensor in my book is just awesome. In fact, I picked up the new 56mm 1.2 lens, and so far I'm really thrilled with the results I'm getting using this lens and camera combination. And obviously, since I upgraded from the X-T4 myself, it should be clear that I felt that it was a worthwhile improvement for the work I do. As a professional photographer, however, it is easier for me to justify and, of course, write off purchases that I use as tools for my business. I am not, however, looking to spend money on gear when I don't need to, although I have been on a quest to find a Fuji setup that rivals my Canon R5, and I think the X-T5 with the new 56mm does that in large part in terms of the quality, although that really is a topic for another video because there's a lot more to discuss there than just image quality alone. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to download my free PDF. Please visit my sponsors in the description. And if you do purchase an X-T4 or an X-T5, I would greatly appreciate if you use one of the links below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and gently press that like button as there is no need to smash it. And as always, I love to hear from you in the comments section. Here's wishing you a great day. Go out and take some awesome pictures, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.